All right, welcome to 5,000 Miles. Here we are talking about Season 8, Episode 4 of Rick and Morty. Super stoked to be here. How you doing over there, Vince?
I'm doing good. This episode's title is a reference to Last Temptation of Christ. And fun fact, Last Temptation of Christ is a Martin Scorsese movie. So there you go. Last Temptation of Christ becomes Last Temptation of Jerry.
What'd you think?
Well, obviously, there's been so many great episodes this season so far that I don't think that they were going to be able to keep up momentum of just having one of the greatest episodes every single week.
Right. It's season 3.
This episode did feel like it was a little bit of a drop off as far as like what will probably end up being my favorite episodes of the season.
Yeah,
However, it did feel like a little bit of a return to form of like good old fashioned Rick and Morty. There was like a lot of like goofiness to it, a lot of body horror, and just Rick and Morty on a old fashioned adventure.
Yeah, well, we were due for a fucking Jerry episode, I think is really what it came down to. Because I don't even know if Jerry was in, it may have not even been in the last episode at all. I'm almost positive that he wasn't. And he really hasn't had too much of an impact in the first two seasons. Or first two episodes. So I think we were very much due for a Jerry episode. This one felt a little bit like the Whirly Durly in that regard, that it was kind of centered around Jerry's bad luck. Poor decisions,
Jerryness,
overall
Jerryness,
Jerryness. But all right. So my first question for you: where is the crossover with South Park here? Because I had 3 different instances in this episode where it was very, very South Park to me, and I understand like this isn't a criticism. Rick and Morty's ripping off South Park or any nonsense like that.
Let me also just say that this is not a South Park conversation episode.
No.
Which we probably have plenty of those coming up in the future. But they did an Easter special, which there's been a couple South Park Easter specials. The Hair Club for Men.
Hair Club for Men.
Which also wove in sort of like there's this like conspiracy stuff going on. And that episode of South Park also had a little bit of a Dan Brown vibe. And so in this episode, Dan Brown gets called out by name. Obviously, Dan Brown's the writer of the Da Vinci Code. So I felt like there was a little bit of a tie-in there. There was also the other thing that reminded me of South Park was back to the pile.
Back to the pile. That one was very South Park, and to me, where it was like almost an homage to have a pile of people having sex. That's right.
A pile of people having sex, yeah.
And so this was Rick and Morty's way of saying, okay, Easter's ridiculous. Here's what we're going to say Easter's all about. So I'll tell you what I didn't. I don't particularly like the subject matter of poking holes in how dumb Easter is, because it really is so dumb. And I hate anything that's, attached to religion, even if you're making fun of it. So I wasn't entirely stoked about the subject matter. And then the one thing I'll point out is the idea that I understand these are our characters in our show and shit has to happen to them, obviously.
Yeah.
But why would that Easter bunny, the evil Easter bunny that's out and on the loose that ends up infecting Jerry and the whole thing goes on, be near Jerry's house for him to hit him with a car? So I just didn't like.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Huh?
Wrong place, wrong time. It's the same thing with how when there's an alien invasion in the Avengers, they always just invade New York City. Like the rest of the world is always left alone.
Right. And so normally they don't make you glaze over something like that so obviously. But in this case, I wasn't all that stoked on that. But that's just a soft criticism in terms of what the episode was about. I wasn't all that taken with it. If I'm being
also we know that in the past, Jerry has had a penchant for hitting animals in the road. He hit the deer as well.
He did.
He didn't know whether to kill it or not, and he panicked. And then also he was able to have Beth resuscitate the deer, and that was all thanks to Cold Stone Creamery.
Yes, that's right. Rum! I was eating rum raisin.
Yep. It was rum raisin.
You also see him being excited about a holiday and none of his other family members are. So when did we see that very famously of Jerry being very excited about a holiday?
Well, that was the Christmas. And also, just like in the Christmas episode, being excited about a holiday came back to really bite Jerry in the butt because we remember in the Christmas episode he finds out that his mom and dad are in this weird, strange sexual relationship with the other guy that showed up to the Christmas party.
Yeah, he likes
So
to watch from the closet, almost always dressed as.
Superman, I believe, right?
That is correct. That's the Anatomy of
Yeah,
Work episode. That's the third episode ever.
one of my favorite laugh out loud lines from this episode was, "Oh, his butt's in the front."
Oh, Rick, did you see that?
Yeah, it has a butt where its dick should be.
Rick!
His butt's in the front, yeah. And then
Like,
we cannot wait to see if the dick's in the back.
and of all the stuff that they see going on, all the crazy like sci-fi space stuff that they're privy to,
Yeah.
the butt being in the front is what blows Rick away, and that was like a great line that really got me in
Well,
this episode.
yeah, and I liked that he was just fixated on it because it shows how little that he's worried about the actual things that are taking place.
Even when he turns into the Easter Bunny at the end of the episode, and Beth literally shoots him in the head, he just pops out of his Easter Bunny body.
Yeah, just like
Because obviously Rick's body has some sort of DNA tracking thing, and whenever his body gets killed and has morphed into some other thing, it just creates a copy of his body inside that body, and he bursts out of it. So
it's kind of like the substance. Did you see the substance with Demi Moore when they've like unzipped the body and
oh,
out of it? Yeah, it's kind of like
I
that.
did see the substance.
Yeah, no doubt.
I thought it was really cool. One thing that I thought was really clever was the way that they tied in the mois, the statues from Easter Island,
Yeah.
into the Easter theme, even though obviously Easter Island doesn't have anything to do with Easter, except for the fact that it was discovered on Easter Day. But then they also used the Moi statues and they made the aliens look like the Mois, but then the aliens are also a reference to the movie Prometheus.
Right.
So they really like threaded the needle between making the aliens look somewhere in between Prometheus aliens and the Moi from the Easter Island statues.
I did see Prometheus.
I thought it was funny when they cut back to Rick and Morty, and Rick goes, "So that's the entire plot of Prometheus." And Rick's just like, "Why were we talking about this again?"
Essentially, at the end of the day, what the episode is saying is that their explanation for Easter is that it's this evil population bunny, right? Who can't help but try and get populations to overproduce so much that it becomes problematic for them. That's the secret.
Yeah, I believe he said it was fuck-based terraforming.
The Easter rabbit's an alien. They send it to planets in an egg. If you kill it, you become it.
Okay, well, explain this then.
Easy. The rabbit is some kind of pheromonal catalyst. Looks like it makes everyone have sex until the planet gets overpopulated and collapses. It's fuck-based terraforming.
Fuck-based terraforming. That is what he said. I did like the way he put that.
And this is actually the second time that we've seen something like this because there was another episode where the guy was trying to start the app, and the aliens wanted to have like an app where, like a relationship app, like a Tinder type thing, where people would get together, and then people were so busy getting together that society was collapsing as well.
So when we get introduced to the characters that have the cross guns, and they have this like singular purpose to try and kill the Easter Bunny, I guess. What is it that exactly? That's what their whole existence is about. All the
right, and also part of that is because they hate sex. They hate seeing it in movies. They hate hearing it referenced in pop songs.
So whether it's a planet or a race of people or whatever, like it exists outside of Earth, outside of anything we know, and then we're all of a sudden thrust into their world and their motives based on something that's going on with our Rick and Morty.
And then we find out that Jesus was one of the Christ soldiers that they sent to
their best.
Earth.
Yeah.
They sent to Earth to try to kill the Easter Bunny. and we accidentally crucified him, not realizing. Also, that main Christ trooper, that guy's name is Reinhard Kincaid. Kincaid, the last name Kincaid is from Thomas Kincaid, who was a famous Christian artist.
Interesting. Wow, I would have never picked up on that.
Yeah, he's a notoriously Christian artist, and he's the second artist that was referenced in this episode because they also reference H.R. Geiger, and he is a guy that's known for making like biomechanical artwork. And so all the art that you see when Rick mentions H.R. Geiger is all in that art style.
Do you remember that Sun episode where the
The
Sun?
Knights of the Sun?
Yeah, the cross gun character guys reminded me of the Sun people.
The Knights of the Sun?
Yeah, the Knights of the Sun, right? Yeah, I kind of just
Except
got some power.
they weren't as into heroin as much.
Certainly, they didn't like sex as much as the Sun people like heroin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because the Sun people, from living on the sun, it turned their veins into carbon, so it was impossible for them to OD. So, I mean, when in Rome.
Well, you know what else you could, okay, so it's impossible for them to OD. Why was it possible for Summer to continue drinking and doing drugs? Because Rick did what?
She had an extra stomach that was just for alcohol.
He gave her a second stomach for alcohol.
Daytona?
Exactly. Get shit-faced. Go insane. Here's a fake ID and a second alcohol stomach. I want you to do some Molly and throw up in a pool.
No.
Gave her a second stomach just for alcohol, and then I love the fact that they re-reference that at the very, very end of the episode. They come back to Summer. She's been left and stranded at spring break, and because her parents never came to pick them up, she's one of the forgotten children at spring break, and it's devolved into this like Lord of the Flies type of spring break deal.
She got stranded there at spring break just like Jerry got stranded at Jerry Brewery.
Jerry Brewery, yeah. That's funny because we saw a bunch of Jerry's whose owners never came back for them, and then it was just like Summer was stranded there because her family never picked her up.
I liked when at the very beginning Rick's trying to get people to be encouraged in his bullshit holiday enthusiasm, and when he walks in the garage, Rick's like pouring out a living blob down the sink, and instead of engaging him, he's just like, never mind. So Rick's just out in the
got a purple anthropomorphic purple liquid. No.
Oh, like when they were in the big fight, right? And then one of the either the cross guy or the other character, the Prometheus aliens, they smash Rick's portal gun. They smash the top of it, and then in order to stop the person, he throws the remaining bit of portal fluid onto the dude, and it makes him disintegrate or portal to somewhere. So it was like Rick really thinking on his feet, and I kind of just thought that was like clever, little fun little thing that happened.
I love to see action scenes. I love to see Rick fighting. Or it also reminds me of the time that Rick was fighting the president, and they both had all these like crazy technology weapons.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Also, I like the fact that it was a Jerry-centric episode for the most part. It was on Father's Day. So what better time to have a Jerry episode than on Father's Day?
The little thing where they, like, I think Rick says, we're doing Indiana Jones. And so, like, the way that the map looks, is that, like, because I'm not an Indiana Jones guy, but the way, right after he says it, are they using Indiana Jones visuals or music or something?
In classic Rick and Morty style, instead of just referencing something, they also do a twist on it. So instead of them showing the travel progression with a line, they just show the portal on the map. They go in the portal on one end and come out the portal on the other end.
Because that's really clever.
That's how Rick and Morty travel.
That was really clever. Last one I got for you is the Encino Man joke about being old and knowing Encino Man and young people not knowing it. It hurt me. I was like, how do you not know Encino Man? It's like, you're old, bro.
It's hard to think about, but the 90s were a long time ago, too, at this point, you know? So from and I know you're a big Pauly Shore fan, so to think about the fact that something like Encino Man came out so long ago. Couple Easter eggs. Yeah. The guy in the bar was wearing a Led Zeppelin shirt. the logo was kind of grayed out, but you could see the outline of the Led Zeppelin logo, which I was a big fan of.
Very cool.
At the end of the episode, during the holiday montage, they go into a Mexican restaurant and stop people from celebrating Cinco de Mayo.
They've been there before.
That is the same Mexican restaurant that they go to in Morty's Mind Blowers.
Well, and then the alien's going to commit suicide or whatever because it thinks that it has life.
He wants Rick to shoot him.
Yeah, because he thinks that he's definitely going to heaven or whatever. And Morty's like, "How do you know?" And then he finally he pokes a hole in the fucking alien's entire ideology.
The way that you can tell that it's the same restaurant, inside they have like these like adobe roof tiles.
Yeah.
And then also there's these white tiles with blue diamonds in them that they use. I know that they talked about it in the commentary one time that that restaurant is a restaurant that's near where like the writers' room is for Rick and Morty. So it's
cool.
It's a restaurant that the writers go to quite often.
That's good knowledge right there.
Another thing that I love to see was I'm a big fan of the cartoon miniseries Over the Garden Wall. Mm-hmm. And we got a nice little nod to Over the Garden Wall because during the Halloween sequence, Morty rips a costume off a kid who's dressed like Wirt from Over the Garden Wall. So that was a nice little nod to Over the Garden Wall. Love to see it.
Very cool.
After they leave the temple where they see the aliens doing all the egg stuff, they come out of a chute. And the chute, if you look at it, it's like two butt cheeks, and then the chute has a bunch of like mud coming out of it. Yeah. So it's clearly a butt and a butthole, and the guy comes out of the butthole.
I did notice that because that's when
and there's like
the guy comes sliding down out of it, the guy who ends up being able to just live through being torn in half.
And there's like a bunch of mud coming out of it too.
Yeah.
And speaking of being torn in half, I did like the little after episode at the end, the little tag at the end where it shows him showing back up home to his wife. And he's like, "Do you want to make love to me now?" She's like, "No, what am I going to do? Have sex with that bone that's sticking out of your stomach?" Just a funny little dumb thing.
I thought it was funny. I thought that they were going to actually finally have him like die as like the last thing. He would finally just all of a sudden die.
I did get a laugh when they thought he died, but then he started snoring. Like he was
actually, yes, that was funny.
You could tell from watching it that this was going to be a divisive episode. A lot of people get squirmish whenever they do episodes that have to do with sex, and so a lot of Zoomers and Gen Alpha people don't like seeing sex in their TV shows, much like the aliens.
Much like the aliens
in this episode. Yeah. They get turned. They don't like seeing it in their TV. They don't like hearing references to it in pop songs.
They don't like
pilots. So a lot of people didn't. Yeah, a lot of people didn't like some of the gross out humor that was featured in this episode. A lot of people took to the internet to say that they did not like this episode, and then there was a bunch of people online that said that this was their favorite episode of the season so far. So I liked just seeing a good old fashioned Rick and Morty adventure.
Yeah, I wasn't put off or anything like that, but this is more of a mid episode for me. And just, there's nothing wrong with that, man. They can't all be 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of 10. It just doesn't work like that.
Just because based on the strength of the first 3 episodes,
the bar was just too high.
What more could you ask for than those first 3 episodes? So I'm glad to see that we took a step back a little bit, but still with a very quality episode. And I can't wait to see what they come out with next week.
No doubt. So yeah, make sure you tune in to 5,000 Miles next week when we will be reviewing and reacting to the 5th episode of Season 8. Very much looking forward to it.
If there's anything we missed or you want to talk about what your favorite parts of the episode were, put them down in the comments. And if you want to help us out, like and subscribe.
Yes, sir. Cool. Well, I hope to see you guys on the next one. Have a good one.
That's the way the news goes.